Okay, let's start with building blocks of Angular. Okay, so building blocks basically means the core elements or core features of a framework. Okay, we can say building blocks of Spring framework or building blocks of any frameworks, right? So basically, a framework is constructed with certain features, the core features. So those are called building blocks. Okay. Now, in Angular, we have the main building blocks are this, like around like 9 to 10 we have. So these are the very important things I listed out here. Okay. The first one is modules. I think we already touched base modules, right? So modules is like a group of components, services, and the whatever directives, pipes, everything. So all these things basically we group into modules so that we can segregate our application properly in organized manner. So that's the reason we use modules. And components are like the basic building block of Angular framework is a component, because at the end the browser component will be executed, the HTML, CSS, and the code, right? The JavaScript part, and the entire Angular application basically boils down to the components. Okay, and below components we'll have HTML, CSS, and TypeScript, which will be executed in the browser. So nothing else. So the
Yeah.
basic and core the building block is component. And then we have directives and pipes. Directives are more of like components, but basically directives will be used for attaching some behavior to an existing element. Let's say you have a paragraph tag, and whenever you hover your mouse on that paragraph tag, and the background of the tag might be highlighted, and when you unhover your mouse, um, it will not be highlighted. So basically, to attach some behavior, we use directives. And directives, we have two types of directives: structural directives and uh, um, there's one more category. I forgot. Okay, let me see. Yeah, attribute directives and structural directives. Okay, and I will cover this in the next whenever we cover this concept. Okay, but and pipes will be like if you have some data. Let's say you have currency and you want to show currency icon for each time when you show currency, right? So basically, you create a pipe and you tell what kind of icon you want to show, and the pipe syntax will be using basically whenever you interpolate a string, right? You will be adding a pipe symbol and then your pipe name, and it will convert your data there. So we have certain features which can be achieved with pipes, and pipes basically only used in the templates. Okay, I'll show how pipe syntax will look like. Okay, assume this is our interpolation string, right? I'm just showing title from my app component, this one. Okay, I want to show this in uppercase. Okay, so this is my pipe. I added pipe here, and then my pipe is uppercase. So I want this one to convert to uppercase. So if you go to browser and
Okay.
see, this is coming in uppercase. But whereas we have the lowercase value, right? The camera, and you want to make it lowercase, we can change it to lowercase. It will be changed to lowercase. So basically, on fly, if you want to do some transformations in your text, okay, in that cases we can use these pipes, and these are like default pipes we have. But Angular allows us to create a custom pipe also. For example, you want to filter out some data. This is, for example, assume that this is an array, and you want to show only few elements in your page. So that time you can use the limit to or something like that. You can basically create your custom pipe and use it here for filtration purpose, or adding some icon maybe you want to add let's say decimal points to your currency. Let's say you have $100 and you want to show that in the UI as dollar symbol 100.00. Okay, so make it look like a currency, right? So those kind of on-fly transformation we can basically do, because we cannot store $100.00 in the database, right? So basically we'll be storing 100 as a number in the database, but when it comes to UI, and if you want to show in the UI, then you can basically show it dollar symbol and then 100.00, just for like a representation purpose, right? So those kind of transformations you can do using these pipes. And another important concept, the whole Angular is got popular just because of this concept. Okay, the data binding. So data binding is nothing but syncing your data in your TypeScript class, TypeScript object, okay, and in your template. Both must be in sync. So basically Angular takes care of that. So if you take this example, so the title is a variable in my TypeScript, okay, this one. But whatever value I have in this one, basically coming and it is being displayed in between this h1 tag, right? So this transformation or this syncing between these two values is basically taken care by the Angular framework. So let's say if we change that variable dynamically somehow, and whether it will update this title in the page, yes, it will. Let's see how that will happen. Okay, I want to use input tag just to change this element. Okay, now okay, instead of input I can say hyperlink router link why I'm using router link, I can say click, I can say change value. Okay, so whenever I call this change value method, change value, let me set this dot title equals changed value. Okay, now so what I did here is, let me save this. So whenever I click on this link, click me here. So whenever I click on this link, this change value method will be called. Change value method will be called. Inside that I'm changing the title value. Okay, so when I click on that, then only the value will be changed. Otherwise the value will not be changed. So let's see what happens. The click me is not showing the hyperlink, so let's add. So yeah, see, so basically if I click on it, the value will be changed. Okay, we are not changing value inside the template. Basically we are changing a value inside the TypeScript class here, but it will be automatically synced in the UI. So this is called data binding. Okay, and this data binding, whatever we saw, is a one-way data binding. Basically we have two types of data binding. One is called one-way data binding and the other one is called two-way data binding. Okay, we'll cover this in the this chapter, like data binding in Angular. And we have routes. Routing is I think, did we cover the routing when we are having the introduction class? I think little bit we covered. So basically the routes are the paths in your application. So basically you can use the routes to navigate to different sections of application. Okay, so whenever I click on this, the URL here is changing and my content in the page is changing at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So that is called routing. So routing is used to basically to navigate between your single page application. So this is not a basically backend application, right? This is a front end application, and everything is here is happening inside the browser only. We are not basically calling backend and getting some data and showing it here, right? This is not HTML pages. So this is a single page application. So there will be only single page in the entire application. So if I right click and view page source, I'm seeing this page, right? This HTML page. So this is this is what I have, all I have for my entire application. So let me go to a different page. So currently we are in building blocks of Angular page. Let me go to HTML, and in the HTML, let me click on introduction. Here, let me see the view source. Okay. Now, do you see any difference between these two, the first one and second one? The URLs are different. If you see here, we have URL course, Angular training, and topic as some value. And here we have course HTML training and topic as introduction. But if we see in the HTML content part, it will be same. So there is not even single character change between these two pages. But in the representation, I mean in the UI, it is entirely different because we are entirely in a different part of the application. And here we are in the different part of the application in Angular course, right? But still, we're able to achieve this navigation without loading anything from the server. I mean, without changing the HTML, right? So basically, this is my application. This is single page, right? So this is the single page I have, index.html, and this index.html is here. Okay, this is the page I'm seeing in the browser, right? This one here and nothing else. Only thing is here in the body part, it added the script tags. Okay. Other than that, there is no difference. Everything else is same. All these tags and everything, app root component, the script tag, everything is same. Only thing is around here, it added the script tags. And these script tags are basically compiled versions of your Angular application, compiled or like the converted or transpiled version of your Angular application. All your components, all your modules, services, everything will be compiled and minimized as this uglified JS. Basically, you will not understand this JavaScript. All your variables and everything will be renamed to some single character variables, and then will be compressed. I mean, removed all the spaces and everything, so that your application bundle size will be less. Okay. So except this, there is no difference, right? So all your manipulations you are doing whenever you click on some button, basically you're loading a different component. You're basically whenever you navigate across some different part of the application, the entire page in the UI is changing. That is being achieved by only these JavaScript files coming in here. But actually the source of the page is not changing. Okay. So basically that can be achieved with the roots. Okay, whenever you can give some roots definition. Basically you will say to Angular, okay, if user clicks on this link, this root, show a different component, and if a user clicks on different link, if we goes to this path, show another component. So all this configuration we can have it in a JSON array, and we pass that JSON array to Angular router, so that it will basically create the routes and keep it for you. So whenever user makes that event, it will basically render that respective component. Okay, so that will be actually the routes. And the templates, we have another concept called templates. So templates basically in the part of your HTML template, right? So this is basically your template. Whatever component you have, right? Template is attached with the component. Let me open the other application. Yeah, this is simple, right? So we have this component, and we have this for this component we have this HTML. So basically this is a template, And apart from that, we have few tags in Angular, basically to achieve some task. So that is ng template and ng container, and there is one more container outlet. Okay, we have few tags. These are like inbuilt tags given by Angular in order to basically reuse certain sections in your HTML file. Let's say you can have some alert, generic alert. Okay, you want to show this generic alert everywhere, like multiple places in our application. You can basically add some reference to it, generic alert, something like that. So you can using this reference, you can basically render this template. Okay, various parts of the same template, and this cannot be accessed in some other component HTML. Basically, this will be accessed within the within the component or within the template HTML file. And also you can use this reference in your TypeScript file also, using we have one annotation or like one decorator. We have the view child. Okay, so basically we can use it is like a reference of type template reference. So basically you can use this reference in your the TypeScript class also. This will be useful in case of if you want to show some pop-up windows, right? So whenever user clicks on, it will ask for confirmation or some other stuff. So those kind of situations, we can basically use the templates.
Okay.
And after that, we have services. Services is basically we have components. In components, we can basically write the syncing logic. I mean, you will have a big JSON, and you will show that JSON in your template, right? So that syncing will happen. The data binding we can do so that your JSON will be represented in the UI. But services are more of like, used for the backend tasks, like calling some APIs, getting the data, and handling HTTP errors, if there are any errors like 404 or 500 errors, or if you want to write some common logic across components. Okay, some calculation logic you have, and you want to use that calculation logic in multiple places in your application. So what you can do, you can create a service and write your common logic in some methods in that service, and you can inject that service using the dependency injection. Okay, just like our Spring Boot in Java has the dependency injection, right? You can use auto void annotation to inject the beans. The same way you can use the dependency injection Angular to inject this service, which is of type singleton instance, and then you can use that method wherever you want in all the components across your application. So that is how Angular promotes the reusability of code. Okay, and the other thing is the metadata, and metadata is nothing but your metadata about your component or metadata about your modules. Okay, this entire thing is called metadata. So whatever you mention in your decorators, right? So inside this, so this entire object is a metadata. So basically without this is nothing but a simple TypeScript class. Okay, so because you're adding all these things, Angular will understand, okay, this is an module, Angular module type, and in that module I have all these components defined, and this module depends on these other modules, and these are my bootstrap components. Bootstrap meaning the starting part of my application. So all this configuration we are giving inside the ng module decorator using this metadata. And also when it comes to the component, we have component decorator, and inside this we have this object. And with this fields, we are telling Angular framework that okay, this is a component, this is also nothing but a TypeScript class. If you remove this is nothing but a TypeScript class, just like Spring Boot classes, right? So if you put @controller on top of the class, that will become a controller. If you remove that, it will be a simple Java class. So the same way here also, if you add this one, this will become an app component. And here we are giving, okay, what is the selector? This is selector name, and the template URL, and the styles associated with this component. So this basically we are telling Angular, okay, this is a metadata, and this is where my component related files are placed. Okay, we have to give the path also. So that's the reason the path is given here. So basically it is relative to the current directory. That's the reason I have /. If these are located in some different location, you have to give the whole path here. Okay. Now coming to the dependency injection, as I said, we can create services, and we can create some other things which can be basically injectable, right? Something like pipes, and what else we have? We have interceptors also, right? So all these things basically are of type are like basically TypeScript classes, and where you can add some annotation. Like for pipes, you can add @pipe, and for services, you can create have the service decorator, right? So basically all these things will be done so that Angular will register all these components or all these services, or like injectable classes, I can say generically. So whenever you basically add those what is the decorators on top of these classes, they'll become injectable, and you can inject those class instances into the application constructor. I mean the component constructor, or like wherever you want. You can use service inside another service also, right? Basically you can inject into that services constructor, so that that services instance will be available. Okay, these are the core building blocks. Okay, modules, components, directives and pipes, data binding, routes, templates, services, metadata, and dependency injection. Apart from these, Angular is a modular framework, right? So it has everything is a module. So basically they made everything as a module. If you want to use, let's say, forms to collect some data, maybe a student information or login form, sign up form. So for this purpose, we use the input elements, right? So for that, they actually added created a module called forms module. So inside this, they'll have all the directives, all the supportive components to handle your forms, dynamic forms. Okay, and to call your backend APIs, you can use this HTTP client module. And we'll come to this later after this to order. So, and router module is for navigating across your application. So if you don't add this router module, there will be no support for routing concept in your Angular application. And this common module is basically it will have all the common directives, something like the program constructs like ang, the if construct, or for construct, or if else construct, or the switch statement, right? Basically we can use all these directives inside your template to manipulate some list of data, or manipulate some conditions, right? Basically we have if and switch, and if else, and for. Okay, these 3-4 construct we have. So those will be basically created in the common module, and this common module is basically available to use. So whenever you create any Angular module, basically it will add I add that common module inside your module section. I think I removed or what? Okay, this is must be here. Okay, common module must be given. Hello, can you hear me, bro?
Yeah, I'm just checking the one which I created.
Did it add the common module?
I don't think so. Is it an app module.ts?
Yeah, app module.ts. Check in the import section.
So it's inside the component, right?
No, it is
Under
the
component.
module. It's in the module.
Okay. Acha, under module.
Yes, module. Yeah, under module.
App module.ts. Checking correctly.
Open the app module.ts and inside that check in the import section. Is there any common module or not?
Okay.
It's not there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I think that is not added. So if you see my screen, right, so basically it will be like this. The module must be inside the import section. Then only all the ngif and the pipes I mentioned, right, the lowercase, uppercase. So all the basic things which Angular gives us, right? So basic directives, pipes, and services will be available inside this module, common module. Okay, if I open this, I just open the common module of the framework, the Angular framework, and if I search for lowercase, see here, lowercase, title case, uppercase, pipes basically exported. Again, this is the pipe class. So basically the basic things needed for any Angular application, that basically they group into a common shared module called common module, and this will be given to us to basically work on application. So I created yesterday for other class I created this module, test2 module, feature module, and here you see the common module is added automatically.
Okay. So I created using this CLI.
Yeah, CLI, we can create components, we can create services, we can create everything, right, in Angular. So basically the idea is basically it will have all the basic stuff, basic features and the directives, services. Basically you can import this and use those. Okay, otherwise it will throw error that that directive is not found, because it will not understand whether this directive existed or not, because it will not find anywhere else except if you don't add this one. And after this 4, we have reactive forms module. Okay, there is 2 way of working on forms in Angular. One is the forms module and the other one is reactive forms module. So mostly most of the percent people use reactive forms module over the forms module, because this gives us more features compared to the forms module. Okay, basically you can represent an entire form using a model object. Let's say just like in Java we have model object, right, to represent database data. Same way here also you can have, let's say, student form, or let's say employee form, and it has, let's say, 20 fields, and that 20 fields you can create a class, a TypeScript class, of with the name, let's say employee, okay, class employee, and inside that it has all the 20 fields, and the 20 fields you can basically map to the entire form. In the form you can have 20 text fields, and that entire form will be mapped to your TypeScript class. And whenever you submit that form, we can do all the validations on fly, and we can basically fill that object, employee object, with all this data, and then we can send it the JSON to the backend API, right? And also it gives more support for dynamic forms. Let's say if you are filling a timesheet and you have a single row, and at the end you can have some place button, right? Whenever you click on that place button, it will add one more row in the below. Okay, so these are like dynamic forms. These are not basically static forms, right? These are dynamic forms. And using a reactive forms module, you can basically implement such features, the dynamic forms with complex structure easily. But if you use this forms module, it will be little difficult. Okay, so that's the reason using reactive forms module is better in case you have complex forms. If you have very simple forms, then you can use forms module. Okay, and finally, the reason they separated out all these as separate modules, right? Let's say your Angular application is a very simple application. It doesn't have any roots feature or roots requirement. Then you don't have to import this module, so that your application bundle at the end when you build it, right? So it will generate application bundle. So that size of that bundle will be less. And these are like, plug and play kind of feature. So whenever you can, if you want, you can import that module. Otherwise, you don't have to import that module necessarily. So this makes your application more modular and more easily maintainable. You can basically use only what you need, so that your build size is in check. Otherwise, it will basically, if you add all these modules in the Angular, let's say Angular framework comes with all these modules inbuilt without having to import separately, then your bundle size will grow, right? Regardless of you're using or not this module. So for that purpose, they made everything as a modular. Even the core features like the forms, calling the backend APIs, and basic directives, services, and the routing concept. So even the basic things any application needs also, they separate it out as a separate modules. And we have some other modules also, but we will be using only these five uh, more often. We have animation module also to basically add animation support to our Angular applications, right? So, but that is a like entirely different thing. So, okay, now you got some overview on Angular building blocks, right? So we have around 9 building blocks, and we have around 5 modules, which are like common modules.
Okay. Yeah.
Now we'll see this one later because you're not familiarized with the application structure, right? We just covered structure, but we did not go through it properly. Okay, basically, I'll just give overview, but we'll do this hands-on in coming session. So basically, Angular is a modular framework, and you can basically create your own module. Reusable module you can publish in your the npm package, right? So npm repository, we have to publish all the javascript plugins or Angular plugins, React plugins, everything related to JavaScript you can publish into the npm repository. And if you, let's say, if we take this example, we have a charting library called ngx charts, right? So this is developed by some guys, and it's an open source project. And if you want to use the charting features in your application, like the pie chart or the bar chart, all these charts, right? Basically, you can use this command npm I for install, and I'm saying @swimlane/ngx chart. This is the name of your plugin. And once it is installed, you can basically import that module, just like how we imported the common module, right? We can import that module, and then we can start using all the charting components directly inside your application. So wherever, let's say app component.html, you can go and you can add this tag or this component that coming from the inject charts module, and it is directly usable. So it will basically represent the bar chart here. Okay. So this is how easy to work with the third-party modules in Angular. And if you don't want to use this module, you can just remove entry from here, from the import section, and you can just remove this one, and that's it. You're basically not using that module.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we covered the, at least we started off with the Angular CLI and Angular building blocks and creating a new project, and then how Angular starts from step 1 to the entire application. I mean, how the Angular comes to life, right? Using the bootstrapping process, and I think we covered all these things. So if you have any doubts, you can ask me now before moving to the components. So you're good?
Yes, we are good.
Okay, sure. So so as I said, components are like basic building blocks in Angular. So without components, there is no Angular framework at all. So basically a component is a, it will control basically a section of your user interface, and basically it will have its own user interface, and it will have its own code, and it will have its own styles, right? So it is basically an independent piece of section in your user interface, and it basically represents something, some data or something, or it will basically allow you to do some operations. Okay, maybe to handle some events, or maybe to represent some data, or maybe to basically to uh, allow you to enter some details in some form, basically reading the data, right? So all these things can be done using components. And component have a simple structure. I think we already saw the app component structure and everything, right? Basically this is the structure we have for components. And for basically a component is a TypeScript class with the component decorator. So this is basically called metadata, right? So if you see this part, export class greet component implements on init, right? So this is a TypeScript class, just like a Java class, and it has a constructor. And because we're implementing on init method, on init interface, we have to implement this method. But in Java, we'll have the override annotation on top of the method, but here we don't have to have anything. So this is basic TypeScript class, and we are making that as a component by adding this annotation or this decorator. So in this decorator, we have three things. Basically, we will have like many fields. It will have like 15 to 20 fields inside the component section, this configuration. But these three are mandatory and not mandatory. These three are at least the important, and it will be like mostly 90% of the time you will be using these three parameters in your component decorator. So one is a selector. So selector is nothing but basically this is a tag name, okay, component tag. So if you want to use this component in other component HTML, basically you can use app_greet as a HTML tag. Just like, yeah, here, if you want to use the app_greet, you can say app_greet, and that's it. That component being called inside this component, test component. Okay, so that this name comes from here, from the selector. And the second one is the template URL. template URL is nothing but your template, your HTML, your component HTML. Okay, and this is basically in a separate file called greet.component.html. That's the reason the template URL is mentioned. Okay, and the same way style URLs. So if you can have more than one style URLs. I have the greet.component.css style here in separate file. I can have multiple URLs, so I can comma separate, and I can give list of URLs here, list of files which have styles for my greet component, right? But template URL is a single URL. It will not have multiple templates. So any component will have only one template, but it can have multiple URLs also for CSS, multiple paths also. Or like if your template is very small, assume that your template is very small and you don't want to use a separate file for that, you can basically remove the URL part here, and you can basically mention the template colon, and here you can mention your HTML directly. Okay, the same applies for the CSS also. You can mention the style instead of style URLs. You can mention style, and then here you can write your CSS. Okay, let's see how we can do that. So I'm in test component 1, and here let me remove this. Okay, and here I have some simple HTML paragraph, hello world, and let me close the paragraph tag. Okay, that's it. I use the backticks. Okay, this will be available beside your number 1 left side on top of your keyboard left side, right? It's not single quote. This is a backtick. Single quote is this one. So if you use single quote, you cannot enter multi-line text. That's the reason we have to use the backtick, right? So this is how it will show error. So backtick basically allows you to enter multi-line text. And let's say you have public, let me call title or something of type string equals hello world 2. Now I can directly use this here. I mean, I can basically interpolate it here. Let me close this here, and let me set the okay, let me add class of type or else let me change it to h1. This is header h1. Okay, now let me remove my styles. So this cannot be an array. If you want to use it, it can be backticks, and I think styles, not style. Okay, inside this I can write my CSS. Okay, if it is h1 tag, change the background color to red. Okay, I think styles is an array. Sorry. So basically, you can have multiple sections for the styles. Okay, now I have h1 is background is red, and paragraph background to green or something. Okay, now if I go to my application, okay, this is in test component 1, but I think we are rendering test Okay, let me copy this and put it in the app component, because this is in different component. Or I can use the app component one here in the app component here. Basically, we are not rendering that component anywhere. That's the reason it is complaining. Okay, I have to import that module here. Okay, let's not complicate the stuff. Okay, let's basically copy this. And let me in app component. Let me change the selector to app root. Let me comment this. Okay, I have title here, right? So the title will work here. Yeah. See, I have very small template. I have only 2 tags, and I mentioned this using the the backticks, and I changed the parameter to template instead of template URL, and this is called inline template here, and this is called inline CSS. Within the component itself, you will have the template and the CSS. Basically, you can remove these 2 files because these 2 files are not needed. So because our template is very small, right? You can remove CSS file and component HTML. And here we have styles, basically always an array, either the styles property or style URLs property, always an array, okay, using the square brackets. So here, if you have another section for your styles, you can basically put a comma and then open backticks again and start writing your CSS. Something like this. You can keep on write your CSS using this array. Okay. So this is how we can do if your template and CSS is small. Then the rest of the section is called your TypeScript class. Okay, so basically this class will be not different from your Java class. It will have a constructor, it will have all the methods, and it will have all the fields defined here. So, and the fields are accessible directly inside your template file, template file.
Okay.
So you can basically go through this documentation. Yeah, here you see, right, the template. If you have single line text, you can put it in a double quote or single quote. If you have multi-line text, you can put in the back quotes. The I use it, right, the backticks.
Okay.
And how to create a component. Okay, we'll cover this one and we'll stop the session for today. Now how to create a component. Basically, you can use Angular CLI to create component. You can say ng generate and then component and then your component name. Basically, this will create your component. The short version of this command is ng, and you can use G, abbreviation G, for generate, and C for component. So your command will become ng g c your component name. Okay. So to basically create one component called quiz, I have to type ng generate component quiz or ng gc quiz. So let me create a this component. Here, let me use the generate component, full text. Okay, let me create. What will happen? Let's see.
Yeah, actually tried this. I created one.
Okay, nice. So did you observe what happened here? It will basically create 4 files and it will say update in app module. Okay. Now what?
Module.ts. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So what is happening? It is creating your the component HTML file, the component test file, spec file, and your component TS file for your code, and your component CSS file. Basically, it created all the 4 files needed for the component, and then it updated your app module with this component configuration. Okay. Now let's go to the app module and see what it updated. So it added the quiz component inside your declaration. So basically, this component is part of your app module, right? It's not part of some other feature module. It's part of your app module. That's the reason your quiz component is added in the declaration section. If you disassociate this one from here, let me remove this. Okay. And let me remove the import also. Then that component is the orphan component. It is not associated with any module. So here I have test2 module, here I have test module, and it is not associated with any module. So that is an orphan module. So I am not able to use, I will not be able to use that module, that component anywhere else in any of these modules, because that is orphan. It is not associated with any module. Okay. It must be associated with any of the modules. Then only that component will be usable. So now I can go to the app component and see it created the selector for me, and this app is prefixed from that angular.json, right? Now my component name is just quiz, but it has added app prefix from my component.json. Now how can I use this component in some other template or some other component? I can basically use this HTML tag. Okay, let me go to app component.html, and let me remove this. Let me just use the tag as is, so nothing else. Interesting. So now I changed it in the app component.html, right? But here in app component, I did not mention that, right? So basically it is rendering this one. It's not going to that app component.html, because I have to give like this. Then only this component file will be, this template file will be picked. Otherwise, it is basically rendering only the inline template. So let me remove this for now and uncomment this, so that my app component.html will be picked. And now you see it is saying quiz works. This quiz works is coming from the quiz components HTML file. Okay, you can have 100 things here. You can have 100 things, all the tags and all the stuff, right? So all your logic and your entire template design, everything you can have here, and all your logic and your variables and your events and everything you can have inside this component for TS file, and all your styles in this file. And at the end, it will be rendered wherever you position. So you position your quiz component just below your title, right? If you go to your app component, I position just below title, I position my app component, and below I have some link also. So all these 3 things are rendered here in the same order we gave there in your app component.html. So now let's create the same component. Okay, let me delete this. So how can we delete a component? Just to select that folder. Basically, each component is created in its own folder, because there are 4 files, right? So if it is keep on creating that 4 set of files every time inside the app folder, it will become non-maintainable. So for that purpose, it will create a folder, and all the things related to that component, it will keep in that folder. So let me delete this one using the delete button. Okay, so now that the component is deleted, but we have to remove this entry from here, otherwise it will throw error, because this it will not find this component, right? So let me remove this, and let me remove this comma also at the end. And then let me remove the import section also. Done. So now my component is out of, also in the app component, we have to remove this tag to save it. Now it compiles successfully. If you go back to our application, it will run. Okay. And let me create the same component using the short version of the syntax. So NGGC and quiz. So it will do the same thing. There is no difference. It will create all the 4 files and it will update your app module.ts. So there is some issue here. I think these are not related to our code changes. These are like old errors. Let me comment all these things. Yeah, it compiled successfully. Now let's go and see. Nothing happens because we are not using the quiz component from here. App quiz in app component.html. Let's use this here, line number 4. See, it comes. Okay, this is how we can basically create a component and we can use it in other modules or other components. Okay, we'll see the modules part later, but at least we can create any number of components using this syntax, and basically we can use that component in other HTML files. Okay. So, and you already know the interpolation part, right? So for each component, all the variables defined in that component file will be used across your template, only associated with that component. So you cannot use variables from one component to other components HTML. So whatever variable you have in component A should be used in that component's HTML file.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now we created the app quiz, right? If you go to app quiz, and I can create a public test value equals to test variable, and now I can use this test variable inside my h4. See, the test variable is coming. So now this test variable I cannot use in app component. So these two are coming from app component, right? So I cannot use this test variable in app component. So let me highlight the background and see. Give me 1 second, okay? My laptop is about to die.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll do one thing. We'll we'll add some background to see our component section. So let me say class, not class, maybe. Okay, let me say class. Class, CSS class, BG of quiz. Okay, let me copy this and let me go to the CSS file. Okay, first time we are creating a style in the CSS, right? So let me change the background color. Background to some gray background. Okay, and let me go to the app component. Okay, let me remove all this. So let me put in some different color. Class app background. Background in the app component CSS. Let me change the color to background color to this one. Okay, so now see the entire section is basically app component, and inside that app component you have your quiz box.
Okay, yeah.
So if you go to the inspect also, you can see this is the app root. Okay, that is your entire application. If you see here, it is highlighting the entire section, right? Inside that you have your app component, and inside your app component you have the app quiz. So
Yeah.
it is highlighting only this part in the app quiz. Yeah. And this is a router outlet. Router outlet will be basically we'll cover this router outlet in the routing session. And here, if you see the page source, there is no difference in the page source here. Just like our previous application, we see only this one. But if you see here in the inspect section of the same application, this will be different. So all your components, HTML and everything will be coming here because the DOM tree, right? So this is called DOM, document object model, and this will be modified dynamically based on your Angular code, how your components was written or how your other logic was written, right? So based on that, this content will be changing, but not the source code. Okay, source code is coming from the server and it will be given to the browser. And once this is loaded into browser, your Angular application will come up to life from these files, the main.js, vendor.js, and style.js. So basically, your Angular application is comprising of these all JS files. And when only this section of HTML loads into your browser, your Angular application comes to life, okay, using that bootstrap process. And now once it comes to life, it will start doing its magic, like creating the components and adding to the DOM tree here and removing it based on your actions. Let's say we have the Angular training header here. If I click on that, it's supposed to change, right, from our previous discussion. So if I click on this, so the value is changed here dynamically. Let me refresh here and show it here. So the Angular training is coming here. Just look at this value when I click on this link. See, it just refreshed that value. So this entire thing is done by the Angular in the background. Okay. From UI point of view, we don't know anything what is happening in the background as a user. Okay, not as a developer, as an end user. I'll be using. I will be basically doing what I'm supposed to do. I click on this link, and what will happen? that background, all these things will happen, and UI, I'll see the magic happening.
Okay.
Okay. And any questions in the component creation part and structure?
Not right now, but what I'll do, I try to create one component and try to play with it. So,
Yeah, just try to create multiple components. Try to create 10 components and name it some sequential name
yeah.
way, something like test component 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then just play with them. You can use multiple components in another component, and you can call that component in the app component. So basically play around, and now then you will be basically get familiar with the component. Okay, one component you can create with that
Okay.
styles URL and template URL, and then another component you can create with the inline variables, and that's how. And you use the interpolation and all these basic things we covered so far, right? So just try to play with it, and then you'll be familiarized with the application.
Okay.
Okay, string interpolation anyhow we'll cover in this session, because it supports many things. It basically supports expressions also, something like this, multiplication, addition, all these things. Okay, so you can basically interpolate
Okay.
wherever you want. Maybe you can send change the image dynamically in your application UI whenever you click some link or something, right? So all these things can be done using the interpolation.
Okay.
Okay, and there are lifecycle hooks also. So far we saw only ng on in it, right? So it's been there in like most of the components. So when this will be used, and what is the use of this lifecycle method, and how many lifecycle methods we have? So we'll cover in the next session. At least the lifecycle methods and string interpolation will cover in the next session.
Okay.
Okay, so are we good now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm stopping my share, and yeah, sure, we'll connect tomorrow then.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, bye.
See you.